in the heart of DC, there is a creek. It's called Rock Creek. It only comes in when it rains like crazy, and I'm with Calleva's Creaking Light class here, trying to learn about rain chasing and how to run creeks and all that good stuff. So we had an enormous pluvial event, crazy rainfall, and Rock Creek spiked up to just over 6 feet, which meant 1,300 or so CFS, good flow. I'm here in lot 6. This is the put-in. I used an earlier takeout because we were losing daylight and my eyes are not very good at all, so I don't mess with low light paddling when I can avoid it. But this is a run. I'll give you a sense of what it's like, and join me for this rare paddle of Rock Creek. Learned a lot. Needing rainfall to fill a creek means that when it's runnable, it's going to have a lot of wood most likely. So scouting is really important, especially with these narrow rivers, narrow features. You can easily end up in a hazard that will be very bad for your health. So important to catch eddies, scout, boat scout, get out and scout, all that good stuff. It's also important to practice good communications. Eddies can get full really quickly, and you don't want to get crosswise with a boater and end up pinned or upside down in a gnarly place, especially because another thing about these urban creeks is that when it rains, the water you're paddling is human feces and groundwater nonsense. You will literally smell it. If it's been running for a while and there's a lot of rain, so it can kind of wash down, it'll get a little bit better after the very first couple hours of rain, but it is gross. Take a shower. Try not to get it in your mouth, eyes, open cuts, all that stuff. So just a cruel reality of this kind of water. So at this level, the opening stretch here is pretty flat. You'll go into the bridge, and there's then the first of, I think, 4 or 5 sets of rapids. They kind of get longer and more challenging as you go. And so this flat water section, basically you're going to see the ranger station on your left. I'll call that out. Then the river is going to make a turn to the right, and that's where the rapids start. So just FYI, and by the way, this has its own gauge. It's the Rock Creek gauge, so don't be watching the Potomac because it's not the same river as Rock Creek is. I've experienced enough wood to know that I can float right over this one without letting it force me to move my boat further left or right than I want to, so I just plow right over it. This bridge is the one that lets you know that it's kicking off soon. All right, we can see the river start to turn. Just a few intro riffles here, no big deal. Remember also, this whole section is roadside, which is really good if something goes wrong or you need EMS or whatever. Also, it's not that easy. It's not really difficult whitewater, but there's a lot of bumps just under the water that could set you wrong, lots of wood hazards, that kind of stuff. So maybe like class 3 moves, class 4 consequences in places. I'm just telling my buddy Keith behind me to eddy out because that's what Mike is doing. We're going to get out and scout. Another indicator that the rapids are just ahead is this ranger station, park police station thing, whatever it is. So when you see that, know that things are about to pick up a bit. Creaking happens when a smaller tributary or little depression creek is filled up, usually by rain, I guess sometimes by snow melt. And like I said, that draws out a lot of wood. A lot of change happens under storm conditions. And since these creeks are narrow, often moving very fast, often with very few eddies, and since they change every time they come in, you've got to scout. Rock Creek is great because you can walk the length of it along the trail and literally just look for wood before you go down. Remember that scouting from land is a great way to observe more of the river and in more detail often, but it looks so different from high up than it does from eye level in your boat. Remember that boat scouting combined with scouting from land will often give you the best perspective, and scouting can be a team effort with some folks out of their boats, some folks in their boats. Another thing is, Every time experienced paddlers that I see get out of their boat for any reason, they bring their throw bag with them, just because turning that into muscle memory is going to save you a couple seconds if there's ever a real safety incident. I want to flag again, this is not really a beginner run. You have to know how to scout, know what the water is going to do for you, know what's a hazard and what isn't, how to navigate it, how to set safety. I know this doesn't look that daunting, but be cautious, especially if you're a beginner boater. Go with someone who's done it before, and go with a big enough crew full of people that have the right gear and rescue experience. The thing I'm most disappointed in is my ability to foresee hazards before I bump into them, little rocks, pour overs, things like that. So I've tried to address that in the video moving forward, and I have to get better at this. Okay, so I want to be about a full boat length. That means 9 feet off the rock for this boof, but I'm further river right than I want to be, meaning I'm more like 4 feet off the rock. So I try to get a big vertical boof stroke, and initially I want to boof on my left in order to put my bow right away from that wood pile, but I see this funky shape of the hole and I go for a righty boof to stay upright, and then a big turn around, swinging my bow to the right and powering up into that eddy.
Sorry, bud. I'm behind you. I'll slow down.
So when you're creaking with a big group, remember the eddies will fill up. If there hasn't been a lot of communication back and forth, or the water's not that difficult, or you know what's going on, sometimes you'll just see there's too many people. I got to find another eddy, but I want to be within line of sight, line of hearing, etc. if I can do that. And I definitely don't want to get too far ahead of the group, especially if I don't know the water. So we're navigating that here.
Sorry, I thought you were signaling me to. Is that okay? Okay, go ahead. All right.
I saw paddles up in the air, which usually means go, and I was at the top of the eddy, so I assumed it was my turn. You can hear me confirming with Mike, the instructor, is it okay that I'm going ahead of you? He's like, yeah, you're good. So I just rock and roll downstream.
I lost my paddle somehow.
Wood. So the reason that I'm cutting hard left, not as hard left as I might have wanted actually, past those rocks in the middle, is that there is wood across them, and usually that's a slot move where there's no wood, but there is now a big old bunch of wood blocking it, so that was the no-go zone on this rapid.
Mark, are you going behind Keith? All right, I'll go behind Mark. You good?
Give each other space. Look where you want to go. Look to the left.
I couldn't even predict what to do there watching other boaters navigate it. Come on. So the homie has a flip and he's upside down. He actually got 3 roll attempts before needing to pull his skirt. So he's swimming. My eyes aren't that good. You can see with the zoom on the camera that instantly Jesse, the instructor, was on him. No worries. But I'm all hyped up on the safety octane. And so just to be totally sure, I hop out of my boat in case he gets snagged on something. This was really unnecessary, but honestly, it's a class and I'm practicing. So hopped out of the boat, fumbled for my throw bag before clearly everything was okay. So I got back in my boat. A little embarrassed, but at the same time, I would appreciate it if someone did that for me. So the main thing I'm taking away from that is how you really want to store your throw bag in a way that makes it easy to grab out quickly while still being secure. I was fumbling with the buckle on it, but anyway. Let me know how stupid you think this may have been or may not have been in the comments. If you get hung up on a rock and you lean into it, be ready with a brace on the side you're leaning into because you're falling into an eddy, over an eddy line, already on an edge, whatever.
I think I just stern squirted my code trying to get across that eddy line.
Down or something like that, just make sure you're ready with a brace. You can even land on the brace paddle. Just have it like this and be like,
okay. Good call. Wow, look at them all falling down. It's like falling down a hill covered in water. Woo!
Yeah, nice job, guys.
Sneaky. Very sneaky rock. The beta here was to stay center, slightly left with the majority of the flow. So coming in under that pedestrian bridge, it's a good opportunity to take out. It's about a mile walk back to the parking lot. There is more of Rock Creek ahead. I'm cutting my run early so I can get out before it gets dark. But yeah, there's a lot more left of this run. I wish I had gotten it all documented for you, but certainly that will come the next time we have a nice big rain event. I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll talk a little bit more about creeking on the walkout. So creeking is this sub-discipline of kayaking that basically focuses on smaller waterways, smaller tributaries that rarely come in. When I say come in, I mean become runnable for kayaks safely or within an individual's risk tolerance. Now, the Southeast is really popular for creeks because it's a mountainous area, and when it rains, which is increasingly common either because of hurricanes, not to be insensitive, they just cause rainfall, or big fronts coming in, or in the summer, convective cell activity, just dumping rain there. And then the kayakers go, okay, what's running? And play this game where they try and figure out where the rainfall happened, how much is happening, how long it's going to be happening for, and what that means for the river level. Because if it's too low, then you're just like falling down rocks, down a wet hill. If it's too high, you get stuck in a flash flood and maybe lose your life. So there's this perfect little risk tolerance zone and runnability zone that these rain-chasing kayakers are going after. It's an interesting discipline. You have to worry about rain data and gauges and what historically has happened and how big the drainage is and all of this other stuff to figure out what water you can go chase and run. So a lot of people like creeking because they're novel. Like a lot of creeks don't come in frequently, and they're located in special, remote, or urban places that offer some novelty to actually running them. Typically, in my experience and based on my paddling, creeks are less predictable, often include more gradient, meaning they're steeper. This can mean that the water is moving faster or there are more drops placed together. Creeks also aggregate wood and stuff like that. So generally, I would say creeking is a more advanced discipline of kayaking, not only because the actual moves are harder and there's typically a lot of rocks and wood and stuff like that, but also because simply to find and run a creek requires some knowledge. And so I recommend buying this Whitewater of Southern Appalachians, Volume 1 and 2, The Plateau by Kirk Edelman. This is an incredible book if you live in this area. You know, if you're within a couple hours drive of the Southeast or you live there, awesome. This book has these cool descriptions of runs with relevant beta, photography, stories, all of that good stuff, super highly produced. And also at the front of it has kind of a textbook style breakdown of how to find and run rivers. Basically, you're going to see all kinds of information about how to read rain and how to use the various online resources that you have in order to find what's running and where. You can see it's like how to use weather data, etc. This is really interesting, really well written, lots of cool pictures and stuff like that. And whitewater guidebooks are actually like a pretty popular thing you can buy. They have them for different regions, especially like out west. So get them through Calleva. You can buy them at PotomacRiverSupply.com. I found these really helpful in learning to creek, and I was really excited to get to Rock Creek. Even though my paddling was subpar, there's always some improvement to be done, isn't there? Thanks for watching again. Thanks for listening to me drone on, and drop some feedback in the comments if you have any.